Reading from biography of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Limamrita. This is volume 5, that will later be a temple. Chapter 7. The devotees then questioned Prabhupada, wasn't the West more impious than Vrindavan? Yes, Prabhupada said, I came to you in the West and you did not know anything about Krishna. You did not even know that these things were bad, meat eating and illicit sex. But when I told you to stop, you did it. But this is Krishna's land, Vrindavan, and they are doing these things here. Therefore it is even worse, and they are being punished directly by Krishna. Prabhupada's morning walks in Vrindavan were as exciting and enlightening as his formal lectures. On 2 consecutive morning walks, he outlined a comprehensive plan for starting an ISKCON Varnashram college. Bhagavad Gita explains how society should be divided into 4 orders according to a person's nature and occupation. Prabhupada said that although the members of the Krishna consciousness movement were above social divisions, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, they should teach others by acting perfectly within these divisions. Not everyone would become a Brahmana, but everyone could attain the same perfection by doing his particular duty for the pleasure of Krishna. We will teach military arts, said Prabhupada, to the amazement of his disciples. Soldiers will wear tilak and march, saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. They can march with military band and fight. I think you read this. Yes. So I think I wasn't here, that's why I had it. To Prabhupada, establishing Varnashram Dharma did not seem difficult. ISKCON should begin by starting a college based on the Varnashram conception. There should be no unemployment. Prabhupada said, we will say, why are you sitting idly? Come onto the field. Take this plow, take this bull, go on working. Why are you sitting idly? This is the Krishna consciousness movement. Nobody should be allowed to sit down and sleep. They must find out some employment. Either work as a Brahmana, or as a Kshatriya, or as a Vaishya. Why should there be unemployment? Just as this body is working, that means the leg is working, the hand, the brain, the belly. So why should there be unemployment? You stop this unemployment, you will see the whole world is peaceful. There will be no complaint. They will be happily chanting Hare Krishna. Just like this field here, no one is working it. They have all gone to the cities to work in the factory. This is condemned civilization. On a morning walk near the end of the Vrindavan festival, one of the devotees mentioned that the festival was almost over and that the devotees would be going back to their centers. Yes, said Prabhupada, and he stopped walking. Yes, that is our real business, to go and preach. Srila Prabhupada ki. Excuse me. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, text number 19. Tvam tu abja nabangri saroja kosham. Tvam tvabja nabangri saroja kosham. Tvam tvabja nabangri saroja kosham. Durga Shrito Nirjita Sapatna. Durga Shrito Nirjita Sapatna. Durga Shrito Nirjita Sapatna. Bom Shriha Bhogan Purushadishtan. Bum Shveha Bhogan Purushadishtan. Bum Shveha Bhogan Purushadishtan. Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva. Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva. Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva. Tvam tvabjana bhagre saroja kosha. Durga Shito Nirjita Sapatna. Bum Shreya Bhogan Purushadishtan. Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva.
Tvam tvabjana bhagri saroja kosha.
Tvam tvabjana bhagre saroja kosha. Durga Shito Nirjita Sapatna. Bum Shreya Bhogan Purushadishtan. Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva.
Tvam tvabjana bhagri saroja kosha.
Tvam tvabjana bhagre saroja kosha.
Durga Shrito Nirjita Sapatna.
Durga Shito Nirjita Sapatna.
Om Shreha Bhogan Purushadishtan.
Bum Shreya Bhogan Purushadishtan.
Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva.
Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva. Tvabjana bhagre saroja kosha. Durga Shito Nirjita Sapatna.
Om Shreya Bhogan Purushadishtan.
Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva. Tvam yourself. Two. Done. Abjanava. With the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose navel is like a lotus flower. Angri, feet, Saroja, lotus, Kosha, hall, Durga, the stronghold, Ashvita, taken shelter of, Nirjita, conquered, Shat Sapatna, the six enemies, the mind and five senses, Bhungshva, enjoy, Iha, in this material world, Bhogan, enjoyable things, Purusha, by the Supreme Person, Atidishtan, extraordinarily ordered, Vimukta, liberated, Sangha, from material association, Prakritim, constitutional position, Bhajasva, enjoy. Translation of purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Brahma continued, my dear Priyavrata, seek shelter inside the opening in the lotus of the feet of the Lord, whose navel is also like a lotus. Thus conquer the six sense organs, the mind and knowledge acquiring senses. Accept material enjoyment because the Lord extraordinarily has ordered you to do this. You will thus always be liberated from material association and be able to carry out the Lord's orders in your constitutional position. Responsibly, please. Lord Brahma continued, my dear Priyavrata, seek shelter inside the opening in the lotus of the feet of the Lord, whose navel is also like a lotus. Thus conquer the six sense organs, the mind and knowledge acquiring senses. Accept material enjoyment because the Lord extraordinarily has ordered you to do this. You will thus always be liberated from material association and be able to carry out the Lord's orders in your constitutional position. Purport. There are three kinds of men in this material world. Those who are trying to enjoy the senses to the utmost are called karmis. Above them are the jnanis who try to conquer the urges of the senses. And above them are the yogis who have already conquered the senses. None of them, however, are situated in a transcendental position. Only devotees who belong to none of the above mentioned groups are transcendental, as explained in Bhagavad Gita. Mam cha yogya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahma. Lord Brahma herein advises Priyavrata to remain transcendental in the fortress, not of family life, but of the lotus feet of the Lord. Abject Nabangri Saroja. When a bumblebee enters the opening of a lotus flower and drinks its honey, it is fully protected by the petals of the lotus. The bee is undisturbed by sunshine and other external influences. Similarly, one who always seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead is protected from all dangers. It is therefore said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Samashtritaye padapalava plavam mahatpadam punyayasho murare bhavam buddhirvatsa padam param padam 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 yadvipadam natesham. For one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, everything becomes easier. Indeed, even crossing the great ocean of nescience, Bhavam Buddhi is exactly like crossing the hoofprint created by a calf, Vatsapadam. For such a devotee, there is no question of remaining in a place where every step is dangerous. Our actual duty is to carry out the supreme order of the personality of Godhead. If we are fixed in our determination to carry out the supreme order of the Lord, we are always secure, regardless of where we are situated, whether in hell or in heaven. Herein, the words Prakritim Bhajasva are very significant. Prakritim refers to one's constitutional position. Every living entity has the constitutional position of being an eternal servant of God. Therefore, the Lord Brahma advised Priyavrata, be situated in your original position as an eternal servant of the Lord. If you carry out His orders, you will never fall, even in the midst of material enjoyment. Material enjoyment achieved by dint of one's fruitive activities differs from material enjoyment given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee sometimes appears to be in a very opulent position, but he accepts that position to follow the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a devotee is never affected by material influences. The devotees in Krishna consciousness movement are preaching all over the world in accordance with the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They have to meet many karmas, but by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are unaffected by material influences. He has blessed them, as described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 7.129. Kahuna badide tomar vishaya taranga punarapi etani pavimora sange. A sincere devotee who engages in the service of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by preaching his cult all over the world will never be affected by Vishaya Taranga, material influences. On the contrary, in due course of time he will return to the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and will thus have perpetual association with him. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanjanashvakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamshcha Shri Rupam Sangrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Savadutam Parijana Sakitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tata Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakapatarubhesha Kripasindhu Vyavesha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Prabhu Nagrinte Giving Yet Kripata Mahamande Shri Guru Vinataya. By the mercy of spiritual master, blind man can see the stars, lame man can cross the mountains, and dumb man can speak in a complete language for of the mind, spiritual obeisances, unto lotus feet of my spiritual master, Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padam Krishna 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 Mati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitanam Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Pujari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Deshattam. So the translation again. Lord Brahma continued, my dear Priyavrata, seek shelter inside the opening in the lotus of the feet of the Lord, whose navel is also like a lotus. Thus conquer the six sense organs, the mind, and knowledge-acquiring senses. Accept material enjoyment because the Lord extraordinarily has ordered you to do this. You will thus always be liberated from material association and be able to carry out the Lord's orders in your constitutional position. So here is established, Lord Brahma establishes what is real renunciation. It's called the Yukta Vairagya. That means connecting. Real renunciation means not using anything for oneself, but using everything in the service of the Lord. Is considered a higher principle of renunciation. because just to give up everything is not considered highest renunciation. Generally, it is thought, generally people think that real renunciation means just to give up everything and go to the forest or meditate or go to Himalayas or something. But there is a misconception in that idea, and that misconception is to think that that we are proprietor. This is mine. This is my house. This is my property. Whatever I have is mine. So I am giving this up now, and now I'm becoming renounced. But there is a misconception in this idea, because ultimately nothing is ours. Everything is energy of Krishna. Parasya Shaktiri Vividaiva Shruyate. There are multiple unlimited energies, different types of energies of the Lord, and you always remain proprietor or those energies being ultimate source of them and being a controller of them. So therefore we cannot claim any proprietorship. Even the body that we have is given by the Lord. It is His energy. Even the senses that we read in the purport, 6 senses, the mind, intelligence, false ego, and 5 material elements. Krishna says they are my separated material energies in Bhagavad Gita. So these energies are also His. So we cannot claim proprietorship over them. It is actually a gift. It's a gift for the soul who wants to enjoy, which is the nature of the soul, to enjoy this material world, who wants to enjoy separately from Krishna. So these are the gifts for us to be able to enjoy and fulfill our desires. It's a very great kindness of the Lord to give for us these gifts of the body. Through the body we can act and can try to satisfy and fulfill our desires materially. And of course, there is no possibility to fully satisfy the soul by this gratification. But because we are giving those gifts, and from very childhood, our mother is waving at us when we are just a small little baby. Mother is waving at us, and all the people are giving us sweets, and etc. And we start putting those sweets and try to enjoy them, starting from the milk of mother. We start to enjoy various types of things, and then we become attached to it, and we attach to the body, attach to our mind. Whatever mind says, we accept as absolute truth. Whatever body dictates in the form of various types of senses and needs, etc., we accept that. And this is the path of material enjoyment that Prabhupada mentions in the purport for karmas, trying to enjoy the senses to the utmost. So this is the general idea of material world. Try to enjoy as much as possible. And the whole idea of this is to bring us to the point of frustration, that we cannot find happiness in essential endeavors. So then this a little bit of renunciation awakens in us that there must be more to life than this. And even karmas, actually, the people who just about sensual enjoyment, they also like a flickering between enjoyment and renunciation, in the sense that the senses being limited, you try to enjoy them to the max, but it reaches a certain saturation point that, and then you have to change, either take a break from it, just like people on the weekend after the hard work, they just give up the hard work and they dive deep into the senses, into gratification. But by Sunday, they're thinking never again. So they get into this mood of renunciation, because the sensual gratification is so limited, and it's actually foreign even to the soul, that by then you over gratify yourself. Either you have to take a break from it altogether, or you have to change. So people try to navigate in this world somehow or another to enjoy either the get into something and then into some gratification and then take a break from it and then get back into it the next weekend when they are like refreshed. Then after working hard throughout the week, that becomes miserable. So they have to change them to doing it in a different way. To enjoy in the senses in a different way. So it's called Boga Tyag. So even the principle of renunciation is there for those enjoyers who are just all about enjoying the senses. In order to senses to remain gratified, you have to either enjoy and renounce the object or keep going from different object to another. Sometimes it's for the eyes, sometimes for the tongue, sometimes for the ears, and sometimes for the sense of touch, etc. All those different types of things. So eventually, a living entity comes to this point that once it becomes really fed up and disgusted with the sense enjoyment, and at that point, if the living entity is fortunate and he has a certain degree of agyata sukriti, a non-devotional service, then it's an opportunity to start devotional service. But if not, then it turns into part of jnana. Jnana means I came to the realization that this material world is a miserable place. So let me give it up. Let me give up the source of miseries. Somehow or another, this is causing me misery. I cannot get what I want. So let me just renounce. Let me let it go, this material world, and just meditate. Just in the various ways meditate. If it's like a personal path, meditate on Vishnu in the heart. If it's a personal path, meditate on nothingness or emptiness or etc. So they try to give it up, this idea of cultivate knowledge. So jnanis usually they spend most of their time kind of trying to convince themselves that this material world is miserable, which is true, but they are not finding the higher enjoyment, higher engagement for the soul who is always active. They decide that just by acting and just by engaging our senses is just a miserable. So let's just stop the acting, stop engaging the senses into gratification, renounce the sense objects, and therefore now I'll be happy and just stop one's existence altogether at the time of death. And that will stop. The individuality is also a problem, they say, because with individuality comes desires, and with the desires comes all this gratification, and it's not possible to satisfy it. So therefore, let's just stop acting, stop the desires, stop the individuality. This is their goal. And it's from Vaishnava point of view, it's a suicidal course. When you have a headache, cut your head off. You have a hand ache, then you cut your hand off. So that's not the best solution. And it's also not a true renunciation. They try to renounce. They give things up, which doesn't even belong to them, and they don't satisfy their drive, their propensity for happiness, for ananda. That's what he's looking for ananda. So the jnanis and the yogis, they find some relief, but they are not finding ananda. But bhakti yoga is a far superior process, because instead of giving things up, everything is recognized its source. Where is it coming from? It's coming from Krishna, and everything should be used in his service. So this is real rising above the possessiveness. Rupa Goswami says that by this we can rise above this idea of enjoyment and renunciation, by seeing that everything is in Krishna's property, and everything should be used in his service. And therefore our senses are engaged. Instead of stopping acting altogether, we're still acting, we're engaging our senses, but we're using them to please Krishna, to satisfy Krishna's senses. And that is the greatest happiness for the soul. It starts experiencing great joy, and therefore this is superior path, because we still have our desires, we're still engaging our senses, we still are acting, but that acting doesn't cause any more misery for us, but it becomes cause of greatest happiness. And when we reach the point that we are always engaged, just like in this verse, that one who engages always in that service, unfailing in all circumstances, and then one rises above the modes of nature, which is ultimately is the cause of misery. So here we see that this king Priyavrata, he had this conception of that I don't like this material world. It's causing me a misery. The ultimate God is the ultimate God is the Supreme Lord. So why I should engage at all in this material world is no point. So he went to the Himalayas. Yeah, and he said, I'm renouncing this world. I'm just fully engaged in meditation to the Lord, and that's that. There is no point of being active in this world. However, Lord Brahma, there was a need to rule the planet. It was necessary to have a good ruler, and the best ruler is the Krishna conscious ruler is called Rajarshi. Raja means king, and Rishi is a saint. So the best ruler is a saintly king. So there was probably many different types of options as well for Lord Brahma to choose to run the planet, but it was Lord Brahma's and ultimately Lord's desire, and generally Lord wants to be a saintly person in charge, because that's then Lord's mission becomes fulfilled, because he wants to deliver everybody in the world and go back to Godhead. And it's described one should not become a father, one should not become, I don't know exact verse, but basically some sort of a leader if you cannot deliver his subjects. And because that's the purpose, is to lead people out of this material world into transcendental world, into transcendental realm. That's this whole mission of this material creation is for that. So if this is the so this is the ultimately purpose, is that rehabilitation of the soul is a rehab to transform the desires of the soul to material enjoy, and to transform it back into the constitutional position of serving the Supreme Lord. So if we just renounce, the material world, considering it's a bad place, but we are not fulfilling the mission of the Lord, that's very far away from perfection. And even those kind of people may reach the Brahman conception or even realize the super soul. Prabhupada doesn't even call it transcendental, despite of the fact that they may become free from the influence of modern nature. Prabhupada would not put it into transcendental, and in a strict sense of the word transcendence, unless the Lord is pleased and the Lord is fully satisfied and happy. In a strict sense, it would not be called transcendence from the Bhakti Yoga point of view. Even those people may become free from the influence of lower modes and achieve the Brahman conception or even Paramatma conception. But what happens, because that drive for spiritual eternal relationship is not fulfilled, there's a tendency to fall down even from that high platform of being free from modes of nature, merging into Brahman or even Paramatma realization. There is a tendency to fall down from those positions, and therefore it's not full transcendence in a sense that is not everlasting. That the drive of the soul is not fulfilled. So therefore, this mission of the Lord is to rise above even those lower Brahman and Paramatma realizations to the Bhagavan realization. That's why Lord comes, and that's why He created this world, and why the Lord Brahma is there, who knows the purpose of the Lord. So Priyavrata, he went to the mountains to meditate, to achieve his individual bhakti yoga, but Brahma says no. Actually, there is a higher principle than that. That you need to serve the Lord by fulfilling His mission. You need to rule this kingdom and facilitate many other people for them to rise above in their individual capacities, as we read in Prabhupada wanted to establish Varnashram college in Vrindavan. And even devotees are above those varnas, Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Brahmana, they are above. However, Prabhupada said we just read actually this morning, that they can set an example for other people how to act by doing all those different various things. So they set an example how to connect everything, your propensity, whatever it could be, how to connect all that to the service of the Lord. So this Varnashram college idea was to set that example. So the king, being a ruler, he is able to connect everybody. It's like sometimes it's described and sometimes it's compared to the Lord and sometimes it's compared to the king or the ruler. It's like a sun. The sun extracts the water from various types of places in the form of a cloud, and the cloud is there in the sky, and then the cloud goes everywhere and distributes that water, into the rainy places, into the dry places, into the mountains, and then from the mountains the water falls down and goes back into the sea, and in that way the whole land is nourished. The whole place is nourished and everything is green, everything grows, everything produces, it's produced. So this is the potency and power of that water. So in the same way, the king or the ruler is extracting the services out of everyone in a form of various types of propensities and various types of abilities, is extracting those, and also in terms of Lakshmi, or some produce or whatever, is just extracting everything, and then it gets offered to the Lord, and then it gets distributed, so like a government or the king or the leader extracts all those in terms of one's energy, in terms of Lakshmi, in terms of all those things, and again to repeat it gets distributed. It gets distributed for the benefit of people, taking care of the people, and also connecting everything to Krishna. So in that way, everything gets engaged in the service of the Lord. So it's a very important and significant service, and the people make their advancement gradually, steadily, by giving that energy. In the beginning is maybe some energy, and ultimately 100% energy in the service of the Lord. So then everything functions properly. The king is serving the Lord, and everybody, all the subjects are serving, and they're making advancement. So Lord Brahma is saying, that this is what he's asking, that Lord had this extraordinary, has ordered him to do so. And being a king, there is various types of facilities and resources that comes with that service. And various types of enjoyment, etc. And one can function in that situation if one is fully surrendered to the Lord. and Priyavrata has been asked to do this as a service to the Lord, and this is higher principle just in being in the Himalayas and being, renunciate, not having absolutely anything, etc. Because this was the service to the Lord, it's a higher principle that Priyavrata was asked to do this higher principle by Brahma on behalf of the Lord. And that is a higher type of renunciation, that you may have to accept a certain degree of sense gratification in order to serve the Lord, but you're not attached because you, by service of the Lord, you're experiencing higher taste. You remain detached from that situation. And as we can see, then Priyavrata later on, he will accept the service, and one is then protected, as Prabhupada says again in the purport, then because he's executing the mission of the Lord, executing the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and if he's practicing it properly. And as we can see, Priyavrata did have his challenges. It's not that now there won't be any challenges. There will be also tests. You're doing the service of the Lord. You're doing the managing. You're doing the ruling. And there will be still some tests and opportunities to become again attached. But Lord Chaitanya then ultimately protects us, and the Lord protects us and sends us various ways how to not to become attached, and He kind of helps us in our service. So, are there any questions or comments on this, please?
Yeah, thank you for your lecture, and I find this verse very, very mind-opening, because here in this verse is described how to proceed, or how to get into devotional service. The first thing is mentioned: you have to seek shelter to the lotus feet of the Lord. And the second point is you have to conquer the six senses of the organs. Third point is that you can accept material enjoyment, and when you have all attained these aspects, you will be liberated from material association. And then you can carry out your organs in a constitutional position. And I also find it's a very moderate way, because there is always material enjoyment in the material world. We cannot deny it. And we all suffer from material association. And this is here, this promise from Lord Brahma, that we will be liberated from material association when we follow these steps. And I just want to ask you, Priyavrata, did he mention somewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam what kind of material association he was suffering from?
So he was a prince.
Yeah.
He was a prince, and he wasn't. He was from young age, or it was, I can't remember details. Or by Narada Muni's preaching, he became quite renounced, and he was the inheritor of the. You're supposed to be a king, but he gave it up and just went to the mountains to meditate. So technically speaking, he didn't want to be surrounded by that sense of gratification and enjoyment and etc. Because he thought it's going to impede his service to the Lord. And then Brahma now comes and explains the higher principle that you can be surrounded by this gratification, but if your senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, you're taking shelter of this beauty of the Lord, who is, his navel is like a lotus flower, his lotus feet, and so it's basically, the principle of attraction to Krishna is very significant. The reason why we are attracted to the senses, and that's why it is challenging, because that material attachment is there, because our attraction to Krishna been reawakened. But this principle of attraction, when it is awakened, we can be surrounded by those, various types of gratification, so we're not disturbed. There will be a certain degree that we're going to take it. And the Bhakti Yoga path is like a middle path, from the material point of view, that as we read the karmis, they want to enjoy senses to the utmost. And the jnanis and yogis, they want to renounce everything completely. So this is like a wide spectrum. One group, they want to fully enjoy their senses to the max as much as possible. And we can see, this is the condition in the world today. And then the other spectrum is those who just want to renounce everything, no gratification, no sense objects, meditation, jnana, etc. But Bhakti, Krishna consciousness, is somewhere here in a sense that you don't completely renounce all the objects. There's a nice prasadam, we offer it to Krishna, and it's a service to Krishna, and then we take it. The senses get gratified on the path of Bhakti. There is a singing, there will be some ideas of jnana and yoga, no singing, eating very plainly, just completely no gratification of senses. Don't put the salt into the rice. Don't put salt into the rice. That kind of thing. Just eat, very, very plainly. But devotees offer prasadam. But also, they're not into the gratifying senses, but there is some gratification that comes, in the due course of daily activities. And also by your karma, some of the things will come, but you don't become attached to them. You use them in Krishna's service instead of using your gratification. And then also, devotee also give up certain things for the service of the Lord if needed. If needed, then the devotee doesn't do certain things, as well, but is not favorable for devotional service, then you give up those things. So in that sense, devotee is also renounced, but it doesn't go to this complete extreme, and if the service of the Lord is required, then he's prepared to give up certain things. And if there is whatever for the Lord's service is necessary, he will reduce it or give up or whatever, and he will do that. But it's not like such an extreme thing that you don't even want to even walk, that you don't step on ant or something, So the devotee remains active. So this is very, very balanced and healthy. Because also what happens to this extreme renunciation, there is a tendency, because that attraction to Krishna is not there, there's a tendency for the heart to become hard, and then the extreme part of the karmis, in the sense enjoyers, there's a lot of attachment and misery when you don't get what you want, or your senses get over gratified. There's lots of misery involved. So all those parts are very challenging. So Krishna consciousness is very balanced and positive path. You had something, Prabhu? Okay, it looks like you want to contribute something. Still, this answering question. Does it answer your question?
Yes, yeah, thank you very much.
There's actually no comment. Is there anything else?
I was just reading in the purport, it says when one becomes a devotee, everything becomes easier. Also, my question is like that the notion that when one begins the path of devotional service or reawakens it, it appears kind of easy, accessible in the beginning, but then Krishna takes certain aspects away and makes them more like an endeavor to attain a higher level. So in one sense, I guess my question is sometimes it can feel like it's becoming more difficult actually, rather than easier. So maybe you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So our path is to become like jnana and yoga path, and even sense enjoyment is very much dependent on your capacity and ability, ability to enjoy or ability to perform pious activities that you get enjoyment, or enjoyment in a mode of ignorance and passion. That will be your capacity to somehow or another enjoy in these miserable ways, but it's all awarded ultimately by the Lord. And in a path of jnana as well, you're trying to renounce the world and trying to perfect your ability to focus and concentrate and that kind of thing. So in a sense, it is difficult because it's all reliant on just yourself. Obviously there is this law or the material nature. Krishna has empowered the nature to reciprocate with your ability, with your desire, with your piety, and reward exactly as much as you deserve and not more than that. You don't get anything more than you deserve in terms of your gratification or misery, in a sense of your renunciation as a jnani or yogi. You don't get a millimeter more than you deserve. And in that sense, it's a difficult path that you're a lone fighter, you're a lone warrior. It's all dependent just on you, and at any time you can fall down as well. No matter how great materially you become, if your piety has expired, or you kind of misuse your ability as a big enjoyer, you can squander the money, or if everything is fine, you're still gonna lose the time of death. There's a limitation. There's always a game over point. You're in your lone fight, and there's also a tendency to become very arrogant, and the next life you just go down again. And then if you're on a path of renunciation, you can see there are many great yogis that fall in as well, because that attraction to Krishna is lacking. They perfected to control their senses to the extent, they withdraw their senses. But then, there's some allurement, Indra, you may become so expert and that Indra gets worried that you're going to take over his position, you're becoming so powerful, the whole universe is shaking. And Indra then sends, some society girl to build. So in that sense, you just aiming for that ultimate goal of being happy somehow or another, and you're failing again and again and again and again and again. So that way it is difficult that you just never achieve your goal in the long term. While devotee is not a lone fighter. Lone fighter. Krishna is there, just pulling you, trying to come closer, even it is difficult, and sometimes it may look like more difficult than path of gratification, or sometimes it look like a more difficult than path of renunciation. When you have to enjoy, like Priyavrata, he wanted to renounce, but he was asked to enjoy. So that was austerity for him. That was a big austerity. He didn't want to enjoy the senses at all, And he was asked, no, you have to be there. But he was, very detached. So that was technically very austere, for him to go into that situation, but it was the desire of the Lord. So Krishna helps, and that's you're not a lone fighter. Krishna is helping, the devotees are helping, the scripture is helping for you to move forward no matter how difficult it is. And also, because you're also becoming stronger by the mercy of the Lord, when your muscles are building up and etc., you may be taking like a stronger weights. You're pushing a stronger weights and doing a more press-ups and etc. But at the same time, it is like, and from the point of view, like you may look like somebody else, you look another devotee who's being longer, and you think, my God, the weight he is pulling, it looks like impossible. I don't think whether I want to do it myself, because I have to pull it this way. But actually, because there is a transcendental muscles there now, is able to push more and is able to pull more. and then we know that I will be able to do it as well in the course if I just carry on with the process. I will also be able to do more precepts and more, headstand or whatever in the course of time. And also we know that Krishna, a part of all that Krishna is also there involved in helping to kind of bear the weight. So stop gathering a lot of time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Antara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura Prema.
Yeah.